No, you're not gonna stick your head behind Tom. She's like, but I can, and I should. It's time for our fire faves. Are you ready?
It's a stick up.
We are on to my fire faves.
So far, you had to drink a little bit of water.
That's how fire they are. We're gonna start with Bristly Build, Spine Sower. It is one generic, one green. It is a 2/2 when it enters the battlefield, and it is awesome. It is both +1/+1 counters as well as landfall abilities. So you could easily just make this a commander. It's a plant druid. Its landfall ability is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Then for 3 generic and 2 green, you can double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. Whether you wanted to put it in the 99 or as a commander, when I'm thinking of this card, if I'm going to put it in the 99, I'm thinking of Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, because you're doubling the 1/1 counters anytime that you are distributing counters itself. I think it's actually more than just the 1/1s. Yeah, it's one or more counters on a permanent. So it's not just 1/1s, it's Planeswalker loyalty counters. It's Sage count or Saga counters. It's going to be anything that is increasing in counters, even in neg-1s. So Vorinclex Monstrous Raider for sure. Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig. Court of Garenbrig is great. It turns more into like a Monarch style deck. I do like that there's Gargos Vicious Watcher. It's a Hydra, so if you want to start making more towards the Hydra decks, because of the fact that its ability is Hydras cost 4 generic less to cast, and a lot of Hydras are X abilities. So that's what I'm thinking about with Bristly Bill. Me personally, I'm teetering around putting this in my Gave deck because it is a +1/+1 sapling deck, but it's hard for me to even think about which card I'm going to take out in order to put it in. Tom, what's your thoughts?
Card good.
Very good.
It's a good card.
Yeah.
You said it all.
Makes sense. So next one I have is Hell to Pay. It is X and then 1 red. It is a sorcery. Hell to Pay deals X damage to target creature. Create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to that creature this way. My first thought is I'm putting this in my Rowan deck because of the fact that it is whenever I lose life, I now can utilize that, tap Rowan, and then spells cost X less to cast. So that sorcery is going to get really beefed up if I am utilizing Rowan the right way. I could be losing 5 to 10 life in one sitting. You good? You all done? Thank you. But you could be losing 10 life in one turn utilizing Rowan properly. Tap her, now you're dealing 10 damage. You do it to a 1/1, now you make 9 treasure tokens. If you have Revel and Riches out, you're more than likely going to have 1 extra treasure token, so that now is 10, and all you have to do is wait till your next upkeep and you win the game. So I love this card for that reason. Now, there's other decks that you could put this in. That's why I liked it. I think it would be fun in my Rowan deck. I'm definitely buying it for that.
The only thing that kind of kills me on that card is just one, it's creating tap treasure tokens. So they come into tap, you can't use them right away. That blows. The thing that also kills me is that it only is dealing damage to target creature versus any target. So it's limiting in that effect. Still though, I mean, it does have a lot of, wiggle room, just the fact that it does prep you for the next turn. But I don't know. I guess you would have to see how it plays.
That's going to be my second one. My third one is going to be Obeka, Splitter of Seconds. It is 1 and then Grixis. It is an Ogre Warlock. It has Menace. It's a 2/5. Whenever Obeka, Splitter of Seconds, deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. This honestly could have been my second commander, because it's got the upkeep steps after this phase, and I can think of at least 4 or 5 cards that I'm automatically putting in this deck. Descent into Inverness. It's at the beginning of your upkeep. Put 2 descent counters on Descent into Avernus. Then each player creates X treasure tokens, and Descent into Avernus deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of descent counters on. If you can make Obeka deal let's say you beef her up, you have a instant or sorcery that can beef it up because there's no blockers on the board for one of your opponents, and now you can deal 4 to 5 damage. Now you're doing 4 to 5 additional upkeeps, and what that's going to do is put 10 counters on Descent into Avernus, and when you're utilizing that, 10 counters equals 10 damage to each opponent. So now you're just dealing a lot of excess damage to them. Now you're making yourself a huge enemy. Then, as well as that Darksteel Reactor, it also has an upkeep ability of you may put a charge counter on it. When Darksteel Reactor has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. Just think of this as like a Revel in Riches for treasure tokens, except this is going to be charge counters. You're going to be wanting to get 4 to 5, maybe even 6 upkeeps, because you're going to be able to do that. And then finally, a mechanized production is going to be the final card that I would really want to talk about with this, because it has at the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts of the same name as one another, you win the game. So that's treasure tokens as well, because they're artifacts.
Yeah. No, this card has just too many upside to it. Very little downside. It has the evasion. It's 2/5 for 4 mana. Getting extra upkeeps is insane, and I've seen it get broken. And shoot, if you throw Roaming Throne in here, you're doubling those. you're doubling the upkeep amount or upkeep phases. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of disgusting things that you can do with just that mechanic itself. And there's a lot of cards: Phyrexian Arena, Black Market Connections. You know, it's disgusting.
That's why it's in my fire faves. Next up, we have Archangel of Tides. It's an angel. It's 1 and then 3 planes. It's 3/5 flying. As long as Archangel of Tides is untapped, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. As long as Archangel of Tides is attacking, creatures can't block unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Now, this is an even better stacks card in my eyes than Ghostly Prison, because now you have the feature of both attacking and staying dormant as well.
Yeah. It does kind of force you to stay within the mono white scheme because it has 3 pips for the white color.
No.
But a 3/5 for 4 mana that's flying, that's already solid. And just having that stacks ability on it just makes it even better.
I would be putting this potentially in my Loro deck just to slow people down and have more creatures in it just for blockers.
I hope you don't get the mana for it, though.
Chromatic Lantern. We'll get the mana for it.
Ooh.
But those are going to be mine. My fire fave. Oh, wait, nope. I forgot we did more fire faves than normal because we're doing less Slayer Nays. Next up is going to be another white card. It is Aven Interrupter. It is 1 generic and then 2 white mana or planes. It's a bird rogue. It's 2/2. It's got flash and it's got flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile target spell. It becomes plotted. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 generic more to cast. I'm automatically thinking someone's trying to Teferi's protect themselves with a board wipe, with something that's gonna kill them. Now I'm gonna throw in Aven Interrupter right onto the field, exile that, and now it costs 2 more. So now it'll cost them 5 to use it again. But if they're using Teferi protection, it's normally because they're about to lose the game. That's when you're gonna see that most. Any thoughts on Aven Interrupter?
It's a counter card white on a creature. What? That's crazy. Yeah, that's good interaction. It's too many plus sides to it. It's also flying and flash. Like, you could have just took out the flying part and just the fact that it's like a 2/2 and made it a 1/1. I'd still use it. Or not. You can literally just not even make it a creature, just make it a spell, and I'd still use it. Like, not only did you make a counter card, you're like, yeah, let's give it 2/2 flying as well. Like, what?
Let's make it block basically everything possible.
Oh yeah, we'll also make it stacks too.
Yeah.
Stupid.
That's why it's on my fire faves. After that one, it's going to be Railway Brawler. Now, this card goes really well in Bristly Bill, so I like that a lot. I feel like green in this set is very centered around the +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, and really focused on with creatures too. Less on like the planeswalkers or any other type of other counters.
Yeah, so but it has reach trample. It's a 3 generic and 2 forest. It's a 5/5. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put X/1/1 counters on it, where X is its power. But instead of playing 5, you can plot it for 4. And then you can play it next turn for free. The commanders that I would use this in are more in a +1/+1 deck like Bristly Bill, Vorinclex, but I want to put this in my Gave deck too, potentially, because if I'm making a bunch of Saprolings, now they're going to get +1/+1 on it, and then I can keep beefing those up. This could almost be like my Feladar's Retreat, but in creature form. What are your thoughts?
Cool thing about this card, it works really well with Rocco Street Chef, because now you get to use the plot ability in Rocco. You want to be playing cards from your exile. So if you're playing plot with Rocco, now you're going to get additional +1/+1 counters with Rocco, and you also just get the food token as well. I think the cool thing about plot is that it really does create explosive turns, and usually in Commander, you usually typically are going to set up for the next turn. At least you're always setting up for the next turn for the first 5 turns, right? And then by that point, that's when you want to start getting your win cons out. Having Railway Brawler have that plot 4 really makes that next turn just stupid explosive. One other thing to mention that is a very key word to this is the reach and trample. I've seen both those mechanics together, where one, you have the ability to just defend against any of those flyers, but 2, having that trample ability really gets in that damage, especially if you're going up against like aristocrat deck and they just have all those 1/1 creatures that are gumming up the board. Now you'll be able to get that damage through. You have +1/+1 counters everywhere. I can see like turn 1 playing a Mystic Elf or whatever. Going from there, turn 2, you're going to probably play another ramp card. And then by that time, either you're going to play Railway Brawler for the 5 mana cost, or better yet, just pay for the plot cost, maybe have one interaction spell with 1 mana open. Come by the next turn, you're going to be able to cast that card for free and get another creature out for free, and have much more of an explosive turn that following turn. Yeah, I mean it's there's no downside to this.
Yep, absolutely. But that's why it's another one of my fire faves. Then we're gonna go over to red. It's gonna be Great Train Heist. It's a spree card. I like it a lot because it gives you that additional combat phase. We were just talking about Ansrag in Carwell Manor. There's plenty of other cards out there. That's its +2/+1 red. Untap all creatures you control. If it's your combat phase, there's an additional one after this. And it's an instant on top of it. Then if you want to go to the secondary one and +2 and on top of that, or just choose this one in general, creatures you control gain +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. And then its extra one, which is just plus red. Choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player this turn, create a tapped treasure token. You can put this in your treasure deck. You can put this in additional combat phases deck. And I mean, the secondary one where it's giving +1/+0 and first strike, I think it would be good if you have a bunch of tokens, creature tokens out, and somebody else does. But I wouldn't use that much. What are your
thoughts? You'd be surprised. Having that at instant speed tends to be really good. Catch people out of nowhere where they don't block you because all of a sudden, they just think it's just a bunch of 1/1s attacking you. But then you give all those 1/1s an extra +1, damage or +1 power. Then all of a sudden, you're actually dying. It's like some of those little things that are sneaky. I think the value that comes with this card is just that it works really well in the early game, but also can be devastating in the late game. So it has, flexibility. It's a versatile card.
My final one for my fire faves is going to be Gold Vein Hydra. It is X generic and 1 green. It is a Hydra. It's a 0/0. It has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. And when it enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters, and then when it dies, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to that power. You know, they are just beefing up treasure decks and like wanting more treasures to be involved in this. Revel in Riches is going to skyrocket in price. I could just see that already with this, because this is awesome. Again, you know, it kind of goes back to that Gargos Vicious Watcher that I was talking about before. You know, that Hydra costs 4 less if you have this Hydra in. Let's say I only have 5 mana. It's only going to be 4/4. Now it's going to be an 8/8 because of that. And that's what I liked about it a lot. The treasure tokens were fun. What are your thoughts? Same?
No, the one thing that always gets me, and I guess Wizards caught on to how strong treasures really were, is that they're making them come in tapped. And that just basically makes the deck so much slower. Because half the time when you're making those treasure tokens, you really want to make those treasure tokens come in untapped so that way you can cast more spells. But when they have it come in tap, it just prevents you from popping off like the way you really want to. So that's the only thing that kills me. But Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, I mean, the card can be a win con right then and there without any, heads up on this card coming down. All of a sudden, you're like in the late in turns, you have nothing on the battlefield besides a crap ton of lands and mana. Shoot, I mean, this might be the card that you need where just dump all that mana into it. Now it's a 10/10 beefy boy with Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Go ahead and swing that last few damage that's needed. And then if it dies, well, guess what? You're just getting a bunch of treasure next turn. But that's it.
That's going to be my fire fave.